Hey guys, welcome to the Ocean State Athlete Podcast. I'm Matt Morocco. We have a new co-host now moving forward, my good friend Todd Ziak. So Todd and I have been friends for going on almost 20 years now.
I think it's over 20 years about.
Yeah,
right?
I would right about that.
Slightly over.
Well, we're getting old. We don't need to tell them how old we are. And I guess we've been talking about doing this for 3-4 years now. Finally have an opportunity to do a podcast together, get to talk sports and kind of force people to listen.
I think the conversation slowly migrated from we should open a bar to hey, you know what? Let's do a podcast.
Exactly.
And now here we are.
Exactly. So we have a great guest today. It's going to be Harry Jon Hope Grigsby, former Rhode Island basketball player, AAU basketball here in Rhode Island, played in college. He's a hip hop artist, professor, an educator, a mentor. He's got his hands in a lot of different things. So we're really excited to talk to him. We have a lot of fun and interesting topics, especially with what's going on in the NBA, what's going on with social justice, all the effects of what they're doing down in the bubble and kind of the reverberations it's had across the country. What do you think, Todd?
Yeah, I think it sounds good.
All right, let's bring in John and we'll get started. Harry, what's up, buddy?
What's up? What's up, man?
How you doing?
How you doing?
So super excited to have you. I'm stoked. We reached out on Facebook last week, I believe it was. We started talking last Wednesday, Thursday. Now, Harry and I have grown up playing basketball together since we're about 13 years old, right? 13, 14?
Yeah.
I think you played what? I played for Bubba Ball at Manton. Were you playing for Davy Lopes or were you playing for David?
I played Davy Lopes, and then I played a couple tournaments and stuff like that for Dave, but primarily I think everybody knew me from Davy Lopes, me, Flip, Carlos, that whole era, you know what I mean?
And we had a chance. We got to play hoops all through AAU. We got to travel the country together. Yep. We had a lot of unique experiences, to say the least. We got to see a lot of obscure shopping malls across the country.
That's right, man. That's right.
Hanging out random high school gyms.
Yeah. It's good, man. It's good, man. Good times, man.
No, exactly. So it's good to connect. We have a lot to talk about. It's going to be a lot of topics, obviously, to hit today. But first and foremost, what do you think with what's going on in the NBA bubble, with them pausing the games? What's your take on what they did?
I'm all for it, man. I'm all for it. I think what we're seeing right now is just this change or this need for change that is it's gotten like non-negotiable.
Yeah.
I mean by that, because of social media, because of what's happened with George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, most recently Mr. Blake, even there was another situation that happened in Los Angeles. We're seeing things that are happening that are just it's undeniable, it's indisputable, and so much to the opposite of what was going on with Colin Kaepernick. I think at the time there were instances, but at the specific time that he decided to protest, there wasn't any activity happening. So it left room for people to sort of question and challenge, much like the owners, much like Roger Goodell. There was some resistance there. Now we've had, even in this just small span of quarantining and COVID and everything, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Blake, Rashad down in Atlanta. So we had all these situations happen, and now it's just it's reached the fever pitch. And so I think these NBA players now more than ever are like, look, man, we have a voice, we have a platform that we want to use, and I think it gets a little bit misconstrued because they're protesting, but the burden isn't on them to solve racism or anything like that. It's really just to highlight, look, this is happening, and it's also impacting us, who we have fortitude, we have capacity, we have social cachet, and we're still being affected by this. I think that's what gets lost in the weeds, is that these players, much like you witnessed, Matt, when we were growing up, they come from communities that are directly affected. And so you're asking guys who are maybe affluent and rich for a year, maybe 5 years, but for 20 years they were living in these conditions. So for me, I totally resonate. I totally understand that. I totally applaud them for. We're talking about like playoff atmosphere. They're stopping. They're not like boycotting. Game one of the season. In November. We're talking about in a playoff game. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're on the biggest stage, and they're willing to stop play because something so.
Absolutely, man, and I'm all for it, man.
So what do you think about Kevin Durant's tweet recently?
I'm not familiar. Can you let me know?
Well, I'd be paraphrasing it, but he tweeted, you know how KD can be like real cryptic and he's got burner accounts and things like that, but he's got rabbit ears too.
Sure.
So he's always trying to figure out what's going on, and he's tweeting a lot. And so he tweeted out something to the effect of like, so are we trying to affect change, or are we just trying to get popular here? And it was just that, and it wasn't at anybody.
Yeah.
And I know it got a lot of attention, and I know you had just mentioned like, definitely that with Kaepernick, and I'm a big 49er fan. I love Kaepernick. He's my boy, you know what I mean? So I remember I was watching the preseason game when he did it. So Kaepernick brought awareness. I think the boycott is bringing awareness. The Black Lives Matter on the court brings awareness. The slogans on the back of the jersey bring awareness. What do you think? Like, if Katie's talking about, are we trying to like really affect some change here? Do you think it's their job to at least explore that, or is the like? I think you kind of were alluding to the fact that this is different than Kaepernick. Like, how so? Would you say?
Well, I think that's a appropriate question. I think that's an appropriate question, and I don't know because of sort of the cryptic and the ambiguity there. I don't know if he was referring to the players or just in general, right? Because that's a question that can be assigned not just to the players themselves, the organization, but to everyone, right? When you think about what was going on in June, right immediately after George Floyd, you saw a lot of companies put out statements, a lot of HR, everybody was scrambling to put out a statement, supporting Black Lives Matter or speaking on the situation. And so when I think about that question, it really, as somebody who's a sociologist, who's an educator and deals with social science, it's like, is this shit performative or is this genuine, right? So like you put out your statement, is it just this urgency to be on the right side of history, or are you really doing that inventory within your company? Is there diversity at the top level? Are we looking at programs? Are we looking in ways in which policy is, disenfranchising by default? Because I think what people get misconstrued is that when you talk about racism, when you talk about prejudice and things of that nature, it's usually we only respond to the sexy versions of racism, right? Ku Klux Klan,
the extreme
word, the extreme, right?
Yeah.
But like, there's passive racism. There's there's implicit bias. They're just people that have cultural blind spots, right?
Yeah.
And it's not ill-intentioned, but there are some ramifications. And so when I think about that question, I think it's like a call for us to really do that inventory, to be like, yo, are we really doing this work, or this is some performative fake ally shit? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. What I liked is, I remember when Kaepernick did his, he was doing the kneeling, and then it led to a lot of different conversation, and it was kind of a hot button issue with a lot of people, as it is today.
Yeah.
What I really liked about what the NFL players did back then is they got together with the owners, they got together with the Players Union and Goodell,
Yeah.
And I don't know what the net result was, but they got together and they decided that they were going to get into their communities and put money into them. We're gonna work with local charities, boys and girls clubs, and things of that nature, from like a regional perspective. So like the Patriots would work with the inner city of Providence and Boston, and like, do you think I feel like the NBA should be following suit, and then you mentioned just corporate America should be doing that. Like,
Yeah.
so I work for Avis, and our headquarters is in Parsippany, like in New Jersey. So we put out statements, and we also look to help minority-owned businesses and things like that.
Yeah.
Because then it goes from just creating awareness to actually starting change where it's needed most. That's just my opinion, though.
I actually agree with that. I think that's one of the ways. And then when you talk about policy and legislation and things of that nature, I mean, we have to look at like the laws and the policies that are really like impacting, that are really sort of like the baseline for this discrimination and whatnot. I mean, education, right? Like we're still our kids, right? We're still reading books about Columbus, right? Like we're still, or we're reducing the black narrative to slavery, when really we were kings and we were, so so when you think about like what our kids will consume, like we're already consuming in a way that psychologically looks at black folk in a deficit. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Well, the narrative is explained by the winner, correct? And how they view.
Right.
So
Right.
we're lacking a African American or black point of view.
Right.
And really all of the facts, because you can't make an educated choice about racism without all of the facts. And we've discussed, Todd and I brought it up.
What do you mean by that?
Because
you can't make an educated choice without.
So you can't make your decision about what you learn about history. You can't, side which side is obviously. Listen, racism's wrong. It's not about racism, but just in history in general, it's written by the winners.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the white people were in charge.
Correct.
So it's a narrative.
They're writing it from the narrative that they choose to give you.
Correct.
So you don't hear about all the things that the African Americans did to help build America, all the positive contributions that they make. They minimize it.
Right.
And so you don't get to see how great and how large of an impact you have. So you always are like seeing someone as less than.
Correct.
Unfortunately. And that's the way we're taught.
But Matt, I'm sorry, go ahead, Todd.
I was just going to say, with the education thing, I would take it one step further too. And it's not just about what they're learning, it's where they're learning too. I think school choice and the ability to, I feel like it starts right there. Like, I mean, I grew up in Connecticut and I went to public school my whole life, but I know a bunch of people that I played basketball with or golf with. They went to prep school, then they went to Ivy League schools. It's just been no worries for them all throughout. And then like, that's kind of what you're talking about with that privilege, that kind of, it's not like overt racism, but it's a little bit, it's like just inherent bias. I feel like with the education, it's not just about what you're learning in the books. It's about the choice to be able to go and have resources and go to a good school where you get a good education that starts there. And then you get opportunities that are opened up for you down the road, because you meet people, you go to school with people, and then like me and Matt know each other from school, and like it's such a big part of our cultural or societal fabric that I feel like school choice, in addition to what you're learning, is important.
We're going to retouch right on this topic. Guys, tune in right after the show at 9 p.m. for the Tom Gronkowski Show with Ruth the Truth and Coach Jay right here on SFBNRI social media platforms. All All right, guys, welcome back to the Ocean State Athlete Podcast with Todd Ziak and Matt Morocco. We got Harry, Jon Hope Grigsby. We were talking about education right before the break.
Yeah.
Now let's discuss. Obviously, it is we want to hit all the social justice topics. We want to hit all the topics and get your opinion. Let's talk about basketball and the avenue it's given you for education. Not only what it allowed you to learn, the different types of people that allowed you to meet, and probably the quality of education that you were able to attain because of hoops, and then how that's helped shape you in your education and in your passions as you've done, moving forward.
Yeah, man. I mean, basketball is was my ticket, man. I grew up in the projects. I come from a very colorful background. I was in foster care, seeing death early, but basketball, it really helped me out from a social standpoint in so many ways. Just a few examples. One, growing up in the 90s in Providence, it was extremely segregated in terms of from an inner city standpoint, right? So you had if you were from the South Side, you were from the South Side. You were from the North End in Chad, in Arbor Glen, you were from there, East Side. And when I say East Side, I'm talking specifically about Camp Street, right? And then you got the West End, you know what I mean? So you and looking back in hindsight, the programs and the youth programs sort of facilitated that, and not ill-intended, but you went to St. Mike's and you were on the South Side and you played against Holy Name, and it sort of created this East Side versus South Side. And these were very feudal, territorial times, and a lot of kids got shot, got killed. It was just a lot of turf wars. However, basketball was actually my ticket to be able to go on all four sides of town and not have any problems, because one, I was good, and then two, I was just a good-natured person. So I never got into that not because I could fight, not because I was a street dude, but because, that's Harry. He could play ball. He's cool. He's from Arbor Glen. Da-da-da. You know what I mean? And so in that regard, basketball helped. And then there was also, the social, the upward mobility, right? I went to St. Ray's. No disrespect, but, if I would have never went to St. Ray's, I would have had to go to Mount Pleasant. And I'm not so certain that my trajectory would have been as great if I went to St. Ray's,
That's kind of like what I was referring to before the break there.
Yeah.
Like St. Ray's, that's you feel like it's given you more opportunity being able to go to a school like that. But what was the other one? Mount Pleasant?
Mount Pleasant, yeah.
My sister and my brother. I feel like if we can make Mount Pleasant better somehow, that would be. Then you wouldn't need to be able to be good at basketball. It would. I think that's where the rubber meets the road for me.
You gotta level the playing field.
Exactly what it is.
So it's about the choice. A lot of athletes have that same story. Mm-hmm. Good thing I was good at football or basketball, or else I'd have been in gang life. And they left me alone because I was good at basketball. I've heard that story a bunch of times, and I'm sympathetic to it. I mean, it's it's good that you had those memories for basketball, but you shouldn't have needed to be able to play basketball to to go to a good, better situation type of school. You know?
We're talking about quality of life, right? And that's the thing. Even when when we're talking about it, right? Those are fundamentals. It's not like
the human right.
It's a fundamental. It's a human right, But I had to be good at something in order to get a fundamental. And so, look at last year when Providence, it was in the national headlines with the Jon Hopkins report about the public school system.
Yeah,
it's bad, man. It's really bad. So there was some report, some information in that report about middle schools where the kids were left with no teacher. In the classroom,
it's crazy to think.
No teacher.
In America, that can happen. We have the resources to never let that happen. And I feel like that's where we were also talking about, like what the NFL was doing. I don't know. I didn't dig into exactly what they were doing specifically and what the end results were, or if they're still ongoing. But that's where like sport, like an athlete can really kind of spearhead a movement like that in the city to kind of help get that going, resources wise, awareness wise, and things like that.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
So we got to travel playing hoops.
Yeah.
Bringing it back to Rhode Island. I gotta bring it back every once in a while. So I feel blessed, and I have this conversation at work when all the topics come up. I have it with Todd. I have it with all my friends. I go, my opinions in life about people are based on how I've met them, and I feel blessed that when I traveled, I was a minority in the group when we had an opportunity to play. So my personal interactions with you, all the other players that we had an opportunity to play with that were not of the same race as me, I got an appreciation at a younger age than most. And you see nowadays that there's less people participating in multi-ethnic groups. So they're actually participating. You would think that race would be less of an issue now as we've gotten older, but it's actually becoming more of an issue. That the kids from the suburbs are only playing with the suburbs. They're not having the same opportunities because you have, especially with, let's just take basketball. If you're good, you have those extra 4 or 5 kids, 4 or 5 teams. In the state of Rhode Island, there's a team for every town. So they're not having I'm not having an opportunity to be with Harry and 8 kids from Providence that I would never leave. I would never be able to be at, in my entire life, being from Cranston, as opposed to now where I can be on a team from Cranston with 10 white kids from my neighborhood. And I never get to learn an appreciation and understand somebody else's struggle and see, how unfair things are.
I had a similar similar type of thing. When I was growing up in Connecticut, my dad coached in the Hill House. Hill House was the New Haven high school. He coached in the Hill House Summer League. And I grew up playing in that. And I got my ass whooped all the time. And, it was like, but it built characters. Like, it was great. Like, it was like my dad would just throw me out there. And I was like, probably a lot like Matt. It was like me and my brother were like the only white dudes on the team. But we really learned basketball like that. And we just never questioned, later on in life, we don't question, like, we were exposed to like inner cities. And I think basketball is such a great, most people who played basketball have the same perspective. You know what I mean? I would say, would you agree with that?
I agree, man. And I think it's so funny because like that we're talking about human connection, right? And which should just happen. But unfortunately, like it actually happens with our children. Like our kids are not viewing the world through all these like barriers and all that. If you all 3 of us brought our children to the playground, they're gonna play regardless, right?
Yeah.
They're gonna, you know what I mean? Right. But as we get older, we have all these social conditions placed upon us, and now in order to get what our kids are getting in an early age, you got to go play basketball. You got to go to this town and things like that. And I feel like that's the problem, man. Like it just goes to show that this divisiveness is a social condition. Like nobody's born racist. Nobody's born, you know what I mean?
It's a learned experience almost.
It's a learned experience, right? And so you have to ask yourself, like, your parents, Matt, when we were growing up, I don't even know if it was even this deep, but it was just like, yo, there's an openness. They're willing to, quote unquote, do the work of trying to create multi-ethnic. I remember your dad. It was nothing for me to go in your house and, you know what I mean, or pick me up. Like
of course, I didn't see color, and I still try to say that I don't see color. But I was taught at an early age that we treat every.
No, hold on. You don't want to say you don't see color.
Yeah.
I know what you mean.
Yeah. What's the proper vernacular?
Value.
Yes. Exactly. But I was told you treat everybody like there's no different. Not that there's no difference, but you treat everybody as you treat them how they treat you. So if you're going to treat me, that's how it is, and that's all it is.
That's easy, man. It's easy,
Yeah.
but I think there's an inherent fear amongst white folks with like this dispossession or like this fear, but based upon the way that we've consumed information.
Mm.
Right? Like think about it, man. Like just this. I remember being in college when I went to Rick and I worked I worked in the cafeteria, and this girl who lived in my suite, she came up to me and she told me flat out, she was from like Coventry or something. I don't know where she was from. And she was like, yo, you're the first black person I've ever met.
That's crazy.
That's horrible.
Like, yo, I'm like, what the
It's
fuck?
crazy.
Like that blew my mind, because I'm like, yo, you're missing out culturally on so many different things. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And like, so it's just crazy.
Yeah.
No, it really is nuts, and it's getting. You feel like it's getting better, but every time we're taking steps forward, I personally believe it's the older generation is grasping at their last little bit of hope, and they want to keep people divided. That's my, because I don't feel as if racism is a heavy belief in people in our age bracket. I feel we started to, at least in people in my circle that I talk to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's, it's very frustrating. And I can, and I'm a white guy.
Right.
Yeah.
Imagine how frustrating it is.
There we go.
Hey,
I mean, I've been in situations, man, whether it's trying to buy a house, whether it's trying to get a loan, so that's for me. So when I hear you say that, I think in terms of like the overt extreme situations, it's gotten much better.
Yeah.
But when we're talking about like the undertones, and when you start looking at like disparities amongst in corporations and redlining practices and things of that nature, my G, it is still out here, very prevalent. You know what I'm saying? I mean, so I'm in a blended family, right? So I co-parent. My daughter's mom is white, and literally and this is sad even as I'm saying it, but this is just the world we live in. We literally utilize her whiteness to try to navigate in certain situations. Like, so in other words, like, so we both own property. When we were trying to, buy and sell or whatever, like there would be situations where she'd go in and on my behalf or whatever, you know what I mean? And negotiate and facilitate or whatever the case may be. And like clockwork, my G, we would see a difference.
100% different response. I could absolutely imagine.
It was insane. And then it would blow their minds when the both of us would walk in the room together.
Yeah.
And they'd see that we're together and they'd be like, oh shit. Or, situations where my name. So my full name is Harrison, right? Which is an English name.
Yeah.
So I'm coming in so on paper, especially since I got those letters at the end of my name, you know what I'm saying? I'm talking to them, whatever. Then when I walk in, and here I don't even got dreads. I'm clean cut, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. I come in the spot and it's a whole different energy, you know what I'm saying? So that's where the racism still is alive and permeating, and I see it in my familial dynamic and just my day-to-day, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. See, nobody really can deny that, I think. And I think that's a great way of articulating, because people here, we talked about it in like the first segment, is this idea, this KKK racism. I mean, that's pretty much dried up. You know what I mean? This outward, like, KKK type of stuff. But the stuff that you're mentioning is still there. You know what I mean? And that's what people don't think about. They're like, that's what, like, the other side of the argument would be like, what are you talking about? Like, There's no slavery. We had a black president.
We had
Look
a
at
black
all this stuff.
president.
Look at all this progress. What are these guys talking? What everybody's so upset about?
Yeah,
That's what people are upset about, and that's there.
that's
Like in me personally, like that, I believe that 100%. I mean, I haven't had to experience that, luckily, but I know enough people that have,
yeah.
and it's there, and it's just
there.
kind of a way of life, and that's really what I think you're talking about. That's what most people who are educated on the situation are talking about,
Absolutely.
because it's like, congratulations, America, we got to this point where we had a black president, and that's great, and that is progress.
That
But
is
there's
progress.
still a lot of work to do.
But they don't want to give you too
Can't
much
rest
progress
on that, you know.
You got a little bit, but they want to take it away. Yeah, don't get too comfortable. Like,
Well,
this
see,
isn't
I
going to be a
don't-
regular
I
thing to
don't-
happen.
I don't see people wanting to take it away. I think some people, and whether they know it or not, they kind of just feel like, what are they talking about? Racism's over. There's no racism. I don't understand. Like, what's everybody so upset about? And that's, what Harry was talking about. That's what people it's under the scene. It's under, there's this underbelly of it, like where that's really the stuff that really affects people's psyche too.
Yeah, it's microaggressive, man.
Yeah.
Like it's because what we're talking about when we talk about the KKK, when we talk about the overt, right? Universally, it's not accepted anymore, right? So the average person is not gonna come out unless you're just a crazy, whatever. They're not gonna just come out and say, "Yo, F this," N-word this or whatever. It's in policy. It's more discreet, and to me, that's what I'm more focused on, because that's what our kids' quality of life is going to be dependent on.
And that's where the change happens, right there, and those institutions where, like, education and like banking, like loans, like what you're talking about with buying houses and programs that make it easier and level the playing field.
Exactly. And I want to make this clear, because a lot of people they can't wrap their mind around, like, equal does not mean I'm taking from you, right? Like, like equal is like, and that's
people
the fear.
Hear unfair, maybe, like, or something.
Yeah, like that's the fear. People think it's like this. If we are equal, that it's like taking from you. It's like, I don't want, Nipsey Hussle says, I don't want a penny more or a penny less than I deserve.
Right. Yeah. That's the right attitude.
Well, with that, we're going to do a quick station identification. We're going to re-hit this topic.
Yeah.
We have a draft, and we have a surprise.
Oh.
All right, so we're just waiting for Harry to make a quick comeback. In a quick second, he's coming back. Here we go. You're back.
You're back. Come back.
So we're gonna hit this topic. I have a quick surprise. I figured, listen, we're having a good time. We're catching up. We're on some important topics. I figured I'd bring somebody else in just to have an additional point of view, if you were cool with that.
Yeah,
we'd like to bring in, a friend, a good friend of mine, a very good friend of yours. My good friend Eddie Davis.
Yeah. What's up? What up, dog?
Oh, you can't hear?
Hold on.
Come on, man.
You good?
Man, what kind of laugh?
I thought he was so shocked.
Players messing up, bro. I don't know what's happening.
I see. We bring in Eddie, and it all goes downhill after that.
He was so shocked he couldn't talk.
Can you hear us now, Ed? Can you hear me now? All right, we're gonna get his speakers taken care of real quick. Eddie, you hear us?
Can you hear us?
Yo.
Yeah, there we go.
There we go.
Hold on.
What's up with it?
Are we good?
We're good.
Yeah.
You're in.
Yeah.
You're in. So for those of you guys who don't know, this is Eddie Davis. He played basketball with Harry and I. One of Harry's good friends. He played at the Wheeler School.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
We all played basketball together. We were in a separate league, so I got to play against Eddie 2 to 3 times a year.
Yes,
One of the
sir.
few, very talented guys we got to play against every year. So I always had a blast. But I knew we were bringing on Harry, so I figured I wanted to reach out. I hadn't seen Eddie in about 2-3 years at least.
Yeah, man.
Before my wife had the baby, so
Yeah.
we wanted to bring him on. We wanted to discuss some of these topics and also kind of surprise him and bring him in for the draft.
I'm in. I'm ready.
Hey, what up, big dog?
What's good, though?
Man, ain't shit, chilling.
So we were talking about, last thing we brought up was redlining and the underbelly of racism that you receive when like you said, when you're going to buy houses and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Do you see a path forward in an expedient manner, or do you see is this something that's going to be a really slow burn? Both of you, obviously, for both of you guys.
June, you want to handle that? You want to go first?
For me personally, I think it's a slow burn for a long time, right? Like
I agree.
I think the climate now is festering that burn, and the generation after us, the
will reap the benefits.
25 right now, are on the cusp of doing something different, But it's going to take it. It's LeBron's not going to be the one to lead the charge that gets it all done tomorrow, right? Like it'll be the next generation of whoever's.
Yeah,
I would agree with that. I think he froze.
Yeah.
What do you think, Harry?
he froze too.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think just to add to that, though, I think it's important to know, though, that the work for change or the expediency is going to depend on allies from white people, right? So the burden can't be on Black and oppressed people to try to get us out, right? Like it's got to be a relationship. It's got to be like white folks gotta like see the value in us coming together and us being united. I mean, and it sounds fluff, but I think that's where you get the expeditious sort of climate. But I mean, and I think that there's a sophistication with Gen Z that I'm seeing where like everyone, like the white, Black, Hispanic, they're seeing like, yo, this is wrong, right? Like I think we're seeing like that there's a tenor there where like, kids they're not jacking racism. They're not really with that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I'm encouraged by that, but I think
the impatience of that generation is going to help because they're used to having things immediate. So they're going to want a change immediately.
Exactly.
All right. So we have a few more minutes left. We're going to bring up our draft question. We were doing a Fantasy 5 question prior to this, which was 5 random questions that I picked off the internet. But we're gonna move to a fantasy draft. It's gonna be fantasy football style.
Yeah.
We'll have our 2 guests draft first, Todd then myself. It is going to be. We have 5 picks, so it's top 5 shooters all time. Now, it's not just the best shooter. It's games on the line.
What?
Who are you taking? It's college or pro, any generation. So, Harry, number 1.
Jump right in.
I like JJ Redick.
So you taking NBA Redick or college Redick?
Duke.
Okay.
Redick.
Duke
Yeah,
Redick.
okay.
You know what I mean? He was a problem. So yeah, I'll start off.
He's the number 1 pick, but I would say that's an upset. But a good pick. Definitely a good pick.
All right, who you got, Eddie?
I'm gonna go Big Shot Bob, man.
Oh, you fuck.
You know.
Yo.
You know what I mean?
You fucked me.
Who's that?
Come on.
Robert Ory.
Robert Ory.
Oh, Robert Ory. Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, my bad.
Oh, you ruined my draft board.
My bad. That's my guy. You can't knock down that many championship threes. Knock me up there, man.
All right, Todd, who you got?
Well, I'm taking Reggie Miller.
Okay. Oh yeah.
That's
Come on.
solid.
That's solid.
Can't argue with that pick.
You can't argue with that.
I'm surprised he's still left. That's a steal.
We're going 2. I'm gonna take. Oh, you fucked me.
He thought nobody would think about
exactly. I was like, I might even get him in the 3rd round. I'm gonna take. I take Ray Allen.
Yeah.
That was my
Ray.
And then I'm gonna go with like a dark horse. I'm gonna stay Steve Wojciechowski, Duke.
Wow.
What?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm a Wojo fan. I love him.
Wow.
I love it with the game.
Okay.
He's got a big set of balls. He might miss 9 in a row, but that last one, I'm going for it.
Okay, I ain't mad at it.
Todd, who you got?
Give me Klay Thompson.
Ooh, Karn, I dig it.
Yeah.
Eddie?
I'm going Davidson Curry. I want
Davidson
Curry. Okay.
All right. So does that make Golden State Curry still available?
He's still on the clock. He's still on the board.
Could I get like Sixers JJ Redick? Specific to the Sixers?
You got 2, Harry. Who you got?
All right.
Yo, I like Del Curry.
Okay.
All right.
I like Del.
Seattle Supersonics, Del Curry?
Yeah.
Did he play in the I think he played. Or is that the Hornets? He played in the Hornets.
Hornets. I'm about to go with the Hornets, man. Yeah. He was a problem.
Yeah.
Who else you got? You got 2 in a row.
I got 2 in a row. Man, Paxson.
Have anybody noticed that Eddie's Googling people right now?
No,
has anybody looked at the screen and see he's Googling people? You're such a liar!
He's like ELUTCH.
Nah, you messed up, bro. I knew who I was picking. I couldn't remember his name.
Right, who do you have with your second pick?
I got my second pick, Craig Hodges, man.
Okay.
Craig Hodges.
Ooh. Todd, who you got?
I mean, since nobody's taken him yet, give me Larry Bird.
All right.
That's got to be the upset pick of the century.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I'm going to go. I'm going to take Michael.
Yeah.
MJ.
I'm going to take MJ.
Yeah.
Might be a great 3-point shooter, but who's got more ice in his veins? And then I'm going to follow up with Kobe.
Okay. Yeah. You might as well. That's going to be a problem. That's going to be a problem in the huddle.
Only one ball, man.
All right.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So I got Reggie Miller, Klay Thompson, Larry Bird. I'm going to get obscure and one of my favorite college guys to watch with Jerry McNamara at Syracuse.
Okay.
Wow.
Yo.
That's a good pick.
Jerry
McNamara.
Yeah.
That was my guy. That was my guy.
Who you got?
You
need to Google? You need like a break?
No. Harry's gonna get upset with me. You know what I mean? I'm sorry, Harry. I'm taking Thunder Dan. You know what I mean? That's another
you're so whack, man.
That's another one. You know.
Thunder Dan. You're so whack, yo.
Jan Marley?
Yeah, man.
Wow. Okay, that's a good pick.
Yo, 93 Suns?
Yes, sir.
No, that he was what's up.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yo, you're so whack, bro.
We got Harry for 2.
Man, this guy, man. I was gonna say Thunder Dan. Let me see. I like Mario Ellie.
Okay.
I like Mario Ellie, man. You know, he was official. And then I'm gonna go Mark Price.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, last round. Eddie, who you got?
So I had a couple different thoughts, and like now I don't know. Because he was like my first Euro that I was like, yo, he's a beast. I really like this guy. Drives me Petrovic.
Oh, that's a good pick.
Wow.
That's a good pick. All right, Todd, last one.
I'll take Kyrie.
Okay.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
I'm
So
surprised nobody's taking KD. Maybe because he's been hurt. Is he off the radar screen
Yeah,
now?
out of sight,
Forget
out
about
of mind.
KD.
Out of sight, out of mind, man.
Yeah,
Well, he can't hit a shot from the bench. He's out.
that's a good point.
He's
Well,
out.
neither can Kyrie.
Yeah, exactly.
True.
Fuck. I had one or two. I think because you said Jerry McNamara, we're gonna go local. We'll end it with TJ. Little
Okay.
TJ Sorrentine.
Come on, man.
At the end,
Come
Harry
on, man.
boy. How do you
I can rock with that.
exactly from the parking lot? How do we not end on that with TJ?
There.
Come on, man. You
Uh,
know?
I
he
think
was the
Jerry
man.
McNamara is on the bench at Syracuse. I think he's one of
They could use him.
right?
Yeah, he's an assistant.
They could use him. All right, guys. Well, I want to say thank you to everybody for coming out. Thank you, Eddie, for showing up and popping in. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
He's been
fun.
watching the whole time, by the way. He's been sitting in the green room just waiting.
For real?
Yeah.
The whole thing was dope.
Harry, where can everybody find you? Find all your stuff, find your music, find out what you're doing.
Yeah, man. I mean, you go to my website, jonhopepvd.com, JONHOPE, PVD.com. And all my handles is Jon Hope PVD. Go get yourself some Hope signature collection. You know what I mean?
They are cool hats.
Fall season is around. We got the hoodies, all that. But yeah, man, thank you for having me. Just good, fruitful discussion. Got my cousin, you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it, for real.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming out. We really appreciate it, Harry.
This
Thank
was
you,
fun.
guys, both you guys. Again, there's another episode of the Ocean State Athlete Podcast. I'm Matt Marocco, Todd Ziak, every Wednesday, 8 o'clock. Thank you guys so much. We appreciate it.
Yeah.